Dare to lead. Lean in. Get a seat at the table. That's what they told us, right? But then came the rest of the instructions. Know your place. Don't speak at this meeting. Sit in the back. Somewhere between be more and be less, we became exhausted. And I've seen that exhaustion up close. I've worked as a healthcare leader in challenging positions and challenging environments and on global humanitarian missions with incredible women who were smart, capable, and completely exhausted. Exhausted from trying to reconcile opposing expectations, exhausted from needing permission to speak, to rise, to exist fully. Exhausted from the pressure and the weight of carrying it all. And in the midst of trying to have it all, I took on more and more, and then started feeling more and more alone. And I thought, the answer to this, power through, work harder, and maybe throw in a little self-care now and then get back up and do it all over again. But one moment completely changed my understanding of this cycle that I was in. It was in Liberia during the Ebola epidemic. So many of the healthcare team and the providers had died by the time we got there that the system itself was overwhelmed. Sickness surrounded us. The remaining healthcare team was exhausted, but not just physically, like mentally, emotionally, and collectively. We worked in a small rural hospital ward where the heat clings to your body and the silence filled the air. The nurses often knew when something wasn't right with a patient, but they didn't speak up. They stayed quiet. Because if they did speak up, they risked being told to dial it back, stay in your lane, or my favorite, this isn't working out. Maybe you've heard something like that too. Well, it was that point that I saw that the unwritten rules had taken hold and something needed to change. I taught the nurses one simple phrase that I learned from my time as a nurse in New York. And it was this: I'm concerned. This is a patient safety issue. We practiced it again and again. I'm concerned. This is a patient safety issue. We did rounds with the doctors every day, room to room, reconciling medications, reviewing the patient's status, and receiving new orders. And one day, the moment came that the nurse, she knew something wasn't right. She briefly turned to look at me, but I didn't step in. I stood beside her, and then she spoke. I'm concerned. This is a patient safety issue. At first, the doctor just stared at her. Let's call it eye contact. Then a nod, and finally, dialogue. She had been heard. You could feel the relief in the room. The nurses now had a shared experience, a shared language, and most importantly, a shared sense of safety and connection. Connection isn't a soft skill. It's science. It's protective, and it's measurable. And this has been proven time and time again, but most importantly by the Harvard study, the longest running study on health and well-being and human development, that connection is the greatest predictor of health and well-being, relationships, community. Besides what I witnessed there in the ward in Liberia, for me it was life-changing because it changed the way that I viewed exhaustion. Exhaustion isn't necessarily ignite from burnout, hardships, and the pressure. It takes hold during the absence of connection. So what I witnessed that day was powerful and reframed the exhaustion for me, in that it wasn't so much about the hardships and the burden that we carry, but whether or not we carry it alone, whether or not we carry the weight of it all alone, or do we in connection with each other, alongside each other. So I've seen this over and over again. An example is in Patras, Greece, on the streets, bandaging and cleaning the wounds of Syrian refugees. But right beside me was World Central Kitchen, the volunteers providing food. And in Central Park in New York City during the COVID pandemic, we worked night and day caring for the sick and dying in a field tent hospital. But across the street was another hospital that overflowed with patients all day, every day, into our tents. In every interaction of humanitarian aid, in every healthcare response, we carried the weight of it all, but we didn't do it alone. We did it alongside each other, in connection with one another. And that made all the difference. We made space instead of a battlefield. And that changes everything, just like it did for that nurse in Liberia. Let's do it differently. Let's create space. Let's reach out and connect. Let's care for one another, so that the next time somebody whispers, "Who does she think she is?" we can step forward and say, "I know exactly who I am. I'm the woman you want standing beside you." And then the only question that still lingers in the air is, will we continue to do this alone? Thank you.